isn't even really in the book, but us Algebra 1 teachers decided to add it along with factoring using a GCF, because this is kind of an extension of factoring using a GCF. So we're still going to be doing stuff that we did yesterday. Today, we're just kind of adding something with it. Okay? Factoring by grouping. For some polynomials, you can factor by grouping pairs of terms that have a common monomial factor. The pattern for factoring by grouping is shown below. I'd probably have this pattern written down. Probably have that written down. That way you have it in your notes. So we have RA plus RB plus SA plus SB. Do any of these four terms, or do these four terms have a common factor altogether?
Yeah.
No. They don't. None of them have the same thing all four together, correct?
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So what we can do is, we can notice that, hey, my first two terms have something in common, don't they?
Yep.
So I can group those together. That's why it's called factoring by grouping.
Mm-hmm.
What's their common factor?
R.
R. That's their GCF. So we pull out the GCF of R. So it's R times A plus B. So that's what we did yesterday, correct? The GCF.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Do my last two terms have something in common? They do. So I can group those together and factor out their GCF. What's their GCF? S. So I factor that S out. Does everyone see that? Everyone okay with that concept? Now I can pretty much pull out another GCF. Because on this big polynomial, what else do they have in common? A plus B, right? They have the A plus B in common, right? So I can pretty much factor out that A plus B. That's one of my factors. And then my two GCFs become my other factor. Does that make sense? So that'd be my factored answer. Any questions there?
No.
We ready to look at some examples with numbers and variables?
Yes.
All right.
Oh, JK.
Factor z to the third plus 5z squared minus 4z minus 20 completely. So I want to factor it till I can't factor it anymore. So just looking right off the bat at the four terms together, do they all four have a common factor? No.
No.
1, 5, 4, and 20 don't have a common number, or a number in common besides 1, correct?
Yep.
And none of them, or they all four don't share a z, do they? Nope. So can I pull out a GCF out of all four of them?
No.
Nope. Do my first two terms have common factors?
Yes.
Yes, so let's group those together. So, someone raise your hand. Tell me what my GCF would be of my first two terms.
Z.
Huh? Close.
Z to the second power.
Z squared. So, 1 and 5 don't have a number in common besides 1, right? So I can't factor out a number. They have two z's in common, right? So I can factor out that z squared. Question?
Wouldn't you be able to factor in 4z with 1z cubed and 5z squared?
You could do that, but that's not going to help us with factoring. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
That's a good question, though. So now I've got to find my other factor. So z squared times what would give me z cubed? Z. Z squared times what would give me 5z squared? 5. Now I'm going to kind of take a few steps back and go back to this slide. Whenever we're factoring by grouping, we want things to match up. We want to get two of the same thing pretty much. So that's what we're going to be looking for that throughout our problems. Now, do negative 4z and negative 20 have a common factor?
Yes.
Yes.
What is it?
4.
4? Just positive 4?
No.
Let's try positive 4.
No.
4 times what would give me negative 4z? Negative z. 4 times what would give me negative 20? Negative 5. Do I have anything matching up?
No.
No? So what do you think I need to factor out instead of a positive 4? Negative 4. Negative 4 times what would give me negative 4z? Z. Negative 4 times what would give me negative 20? Positive 5. Do I have two things matching up now? I do. So the thing that matches, that's one of my factors. Can anyone tell me my other factor?
Z squared minus 4.
Very good. It's my two GCFs. Become my other factor. Does everyone see that? Now, later on in this chapter, we'll find out that this factor can actually be factored further. But we haven't learned that yet. So for our purposes for today, we'll leave it like this. Okay? Does everyone see that? Like I said, later in the chapter, we'll learn how to factor that. It's what we call a special case. But any questions about how we did it today so far? Can I move on? Okay. Just some more examples. X to the third plus 4x squared minus x minus 4. Do all four of those have a common factor? All four terms?
No.
No, they do not. So I can't factor out a GCF from those four. So let's group our first two terms together. Do they have a common factor?
Yes.
What's that common factor?
X squared.
X squared. X squared times what gives me x to the third? X squared times what gives me 4x squared?
4.
Very good. Everyone good so far? We all writing this down?
Yeah.
I got it in my head.
We all writing this down? All right. Now let's group our last two terms together. Do they have a common factor?
No.
Hmm.
Actually, yeah, -1.
There we go. Negative 1. Let's factor out a negative 1. They both have a negative, right? Negative 1 times what will give me negative x? Negative 1 times what will give me negative 4?
4.
Do I have stuff matching up? All right.
Yes.
Look at that. So what's one of my factors?
X plus 4.
X plus 4, the thing that they have in common. That's one of my factors. What's my other factor? Lennon, I think you're saying it.
X squared.
Hold on, Lennon's got it.
X squared minus 1.
Very good. X squared minus 1. My two GCFs. Does everyone see that?
Yeah.
Once again, later on in the chapter, this will be able to be factored further. We're not dealing with that though today, so we'll leave it like this. Okay? Any questions?
No.
Not too bad?
No.
Does everyone see how this is kind of just an extension from yesterday?
Yes.
You're just pulling the GCF twice. Can I erase and move to B?
Yes.
Okay, letter B, I've got 3y cubed plus y squared plus 9y plus 3. Do those four terms have a common factor together?
No.
They do not, so I can't factor out a GCF. Let's group our first two terms together. Do those two terms have a GCF? What is it?
Y squared.
Y squared. Everyone good with that?
Yeah.
Y squared times what would give me 3y to the third power? 3y. Y squared times what would give me y squared?
1.
1. Very good. Everyone okay with that?
Yeah.
We all good? All right, let's group our last two terms together. Do 9y and 3 have a GCF?
Yes. Yes.
It is 3. They don't have any variables in common, so it's just 3. 3 times what would give me 9y? 3y. And then 3 times what would give me 1?
1.
What's one of my factors?
3y plus 1.
The thing they have in common is 3y plus 1. What are my GCFs? Y squared plus 3 becomes my other factor. And that'd be my answer. Any questions there?
No.
Can I erase?
Yes.
Oops, sorry. My apologies. Okay, what if I give you... Let's do... What if I give you this polynomial? How would I approach that?
It would be 3y squared.
Where? Yes, that's 9y cubed. Sorry.
3y squared.
What are you saying? 3y squared for what?
First 2.
For my first 2?
Yeah.
Wait a second. Do all 4 of those have a common factor?
Yeah.
Yes.
They all 3.
3, right?
Yeah, because
Always, 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 always look to see if all of your terms have a common factor and factor that out first. Okay? So what's their common factor? 3. So I'm going to factor out a 3 first. So 3 times what would give me 9y cubed?
3y.
That'd give me y squared. That'd give me 9y. That'd give me 3, right? Do they all 4 have a common factor now?
Yes.
Do they all 4 have a common factor anymore? After I factored out that 3? No. So now, I could then factor by grouping. Well, if you notice, this is the same as our letter B. So what did we get for those when I factored? Look at your paper.
3y plus 1 times y2 plus.
So that would be my answer. I would have to include that 3 out front. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Always look for that GCF first for all of your terms. Okay? What if I made this... Now what's their GCF? Oh, we still...
Y 3.
3 and what?
3y.
3y. So I'd have to factor out my 3y first, and then factor by grouping. Okay? I would have to include that 3y at the beginning, though. Does everyone see that?
Yes.
So what's the very first thing I need to do before I factor by grouping?
All 4 factor out?
Look to see if they all have a GCF that I can factor out. If they don't, then I can go right into factoring by grouping. If they do, I need to factor out first and then factor by grouping. Does that make sense? Any
Yep.
questions there?
Nope. Ow.
Okay.
No.
Okay, we got a worksheet today. This will be due on Monday evening on Canvas. You should be able to knock out a lot of it in class. If not all of it, I had someone in first hour finish it. So you got the rest of the class period to be working on it. And it'll be due on Monday. So any questions before I stop the recording?
No, sir.